Hi, welcome to episode 8 of Cheltenham Chart, where I put my views of the horses who've ran in the previous week up, and then I talk about the comments in the comment section, and I put the occasional bet up for Cheltenham as well, and that's been profitable for 4 years. We've only had one bet this season so far, and that was on Tell Me Something Girl at 14 to 1 for the Mare's Hurdle, £30 to win out of a £400 bank. I'm going to talk about some of the comments that have come in at the end of the video today, but I'll start with the horses which ran last week. Now, I can only give you my view of them. A lot of them weren't really high profile, apart from My Drogo and Blazing Carl, but there are horses that ran that I think could put themselves in the picture for Cheltenham. Two of them ran at Tremor. They were Gilly Billy and Viva DeVito. I thought both of these horses from Willie Mullins yard, and he has introduced Cheltenham winners at Tremor before, they've got a long way to go in their progression, but I thought both looked very impressive on their debuts, and I think they're horses that could progress. I'm not saying they will, but I think they could progress into Cheltenham horses down the line. So getting on to Friday and the Saturday, and at Cheltenham on Friday, Potter's Corner was beaten in the photo finish. But for me, off bottom weight of 10 stone, he's going to have to really up his game to win off levels at the Cheltenham Festival in the cross country. Similarly, Balco de Flo was a little bit disappointing, even off top weight, to finish 10th and 20 lengths behind the leaders. I would have hoped for a bit of a better showing. I've not given up on Balco de Flo, but I did hope for a bit better than this. I'm sure Connections of Sporting John were also disappointed in his run. I thought he may progress into a Stayers Howdle horse, but off 151, he's been beaten. I know he's been giving weight away to the winner on the second, but to be truthful, he needed to be winning this to look like a Stayers Howdle candidate, and he couldn't win. On Saturday, Willie Mullins took out two chasers who'd not really held the highest rank in his own stable over hurdles, but both looked really impressive. They were Blue Lord, who was well behind Appreciate It and Fernie Hollow over hurdles, but made a really nice chase debut, and Statler, who was well behind Gallard du Mesnil and Gallopin des Champs, made his chase debut. Now he's into 6 to 1 second favourite. That's the top price for the National Hunt Chase, and it has me thinking that the National Hunt Chase, usually a battle-hardened chaser who's run quite a few times over fences. It's not normally your novice chaser who's only had a couple of runs, and so I think he might need to get at least 2 more runs in before the festival if I'd be looking to back him for the National Hunt Chase. I actually thought this debut over 2 miles 5, he could look more of a festival novice chase horse. It was a decent field he beat, and I wouldn't give up on him over 3 miles this early. 3 Under through 5 looked a good horse. He's in the National Hunt Chase as well, and he is getting a lot more experience over fences than Statler's had. I don't see this horse winning the National Hunt Chase. I would see it going to an Irish horse. It tends to go to an Irish horse, and I wouldn't really be with 3 Under through 5, but the horse did absolutely nothing wrong, and if you fancy him, I would be following your own instincts on him. Another horse to win at Doncaster was Night Salute. He's from a small yard, and he looks like he's proved himself to be the best British horse for the Triumph Hurdle this season. It's just that when you've got the battalions of Mullins, de Bromhead and Elliott to beat, he may not quite be up to that level, but he's 20 to 1. He's produced a good performance, and he's bashed a few high reputations in this race on Saturday, and I'm sure Milton Harris is quite excited about this horse. The exciting horses to run were My Drogo and Blazing Carl. And firstly, My Drogo, I just felt like this horse was running all over this field for the whole race, but also he was testing Harry Skelton quite a lot. He wanted to go faster just about the whole race. He wanted to go faster than Harry Skelton would let him go. He's jumped well in the main, but this tendency to try and go faster than Harry would let him led to a couple of bad jumps. I'm not sure he's really a bad jumper. He just seems to have very little self-control, and he wants to go faster, and it's almost a constant battle with the jockey. He's 8-1 for the Marsh. He's got enormous talent, but I do think they're going to have to settle this horse a wee bit better to try and win a championship race. That's just purely my opinion, of course, and others may see it very differently. I was impressed with Blazing Cal, who's now the favourite for the Albert Bartlett. I liked his performance. His hurdling wasn't flashy or quick, really. He was just adequate, but he stayed really well, and he looks a grinder, and that's the sort of horse that wins the Albert Bartlett. He's also now had experience at Cheltenham twice. It was a nice performance. He's a rightful favourite for the race. Whether you want to back him at 5-1 and risk Willie Mullins or Gordon Elliott really pulling an ace out of the park would be up to yourself. But it was a good performance. I noted that Gavin Lynch put this horse up before he ran last week, and I think that seems to be Gavin's policy this year, that if you're going to back a horse for the festival, the only way of getting value is to just hope it wins on its next race, and then you have the value. The week before he'd backed Fernie Hollow. It certainly isn't that you're getting value after the race. I wouldn't say 5-1 for the Albert Bartlett's huge value, but he's the rightful favourite. The final horse I want to talk about tonight was one that was put up, and I say I watch every video, and listen to every podcast about Cheltenham, and I was watching the Fat Jockeys Forum podcast. It was called Long Shots, and I thought one of the long shots put up on that, Heaven Help Us, did look like a threat to my bet on Tell Me Something Girl. And so I was watching to see how she would perform yesterday, and I thought she ran a really nice race over 4 furlongs shorter than the mare's hurdle. She was running on. It was a good race. I thought she ran a nice race. And this will just be a tee-up for anything in March. She's won over the course and distance in the Coral Cup before. And I think at 33-1, she is a very big price for the mare's hurdle. And certainly, I've thought about having a saver on her, because Paul Hennessy will have her revved up for just one day. I'm pretty similar to Tell Me Something Girl, who will be only one target in mind. So I thought Heaven Help Us was a bit of an eye-catcher. I certainly was impressed with Blazing Cal. And there were lots of other nice winners on the week. So now I'll get on to people's comments and a couple of things that if you want to comment about, a couple of questions from me. I like to talk about viewers' comments. I like to talk about other podcasts, and I can't say that the horse I watched from the Fat Jockeys Forum podcast, I found their podcast very, very good. It was maybe a little bit long, but they were very thorough in their analysis of the horses. They looked at some good long shots. They went through the Cheltenham Gold Cup in a different video, and I just feel that you could do a lot worse than watching their videos. But getting onto a couple of the comments, Twilight commented that he doesn't back Anti-Post anymore, but he watches all the videos. He takes snippets from everywhere, and then he backs on the day. And I can't fault that approach, because there are many approaches to betting on Cheltenham Festival. You can, like me, be selective and back a few horses that you feel are value for the Cheltenham Festival and that you think can win. You can have the scattergun approach where you're backing 6 in every race, but you do need to have easy access to a lot of accounts to get the best prices on each horse. And then you try to back during the season horses who you feel are value, with the intention of backing maybe 4 or 5 in the race to just make a profit, with certain horses making you more of a profit than the others. And of course, it's very good if you do manage to get the winner, especially if you've backed it at a big price, but it can leave you with 5 stakes lost as well. And it is an approach that I used to use when the prices were there, and of course when I had accounts where I could get bets on with each bookmaker, which I simply can't now. But it is a way to do it. And of course, Twilight's way of doing it, where you just back on the day. And like one of my friends today, when I was just chatting with him, was saying he likes Cheltenham because it's the hardest races to solve. So you can do it on the day, but if you look at last season, there were a lot of odds on shots. A lot of them won, but there were a lot of odds-on shots, and if you do wait till the day, you can tend to be looking at a lot of races where you would be looking at no-bet races, because if we wait to the Champion Hurdle, for instance, you're probably looking at Honeysuckle going off at something like 4-7. Now, when you look at that race on the day, you're going to be looking for an each-way bet, because you're not going to be backing Honeysuckle at 4-7. I wouldn't, I think. A lot of the comments on episode 6 were agreeing with my view on Mick Fitz and Mark Chapman, and quite a few agreeing with Ruby Walsh. And I would say this, that I don't really agree with those guys having like 3 employers in racing. I would like to see racing have, you know, guys in just one job and the money being spread around. I mean, I find I've got no beef with Megan Nichols as such, but really, has she got that job on her knowledge of the paddock looks of horses, or because of who her dad is? Because surely there's paddock judges that have been doing it for 20 years who could have quite easily taken that job up a bit easier. And it's similar to Mick Fitz, Mark Chapman, Ruby Walsh being paid by Paddy Power at the races or Racing TV, and being paid by ITV. I mean, these guys are grossing huge amounts of money, when surely there are analysts that have more of a perspective of the form book than some of those guys, more of a grasp on the paddock than Megan Nichols, but they don't seem to look for these people. They just want a high profile name, and I don't really understand why racing is like that. I would feel that like a subscription channel like Racing TV should have lots more analysts who are form based and trying to find viewers winners and give them accurate assessments of races in the paddock, etc., rather than giving us the view of people like Fitzgerald and Walsh, who are in the main keeping things back from the stables that they know, only really wanting to talk about the horses from the yards that they're in, etc. For me, I would be far more happy with someone who was, you know, a form expert or a paddock expert than the people they currently have. Like I've said, not everyone will agree with my views on the video. That's perfectly plain. I mean, I can go down to the street and meet 4 of my mates, and we'll probably, only 2 of us will agree on the same horse in one race, and the other 3 will have a different pick. That's the way horse racing is. So I can only put my view up, and once I've put my view up, I watch everybody else's, and I rarely comment on the other videos. Sometimes I'll agree with a view and sometimes I won't. So that's really all from me. Oh, sorry, just one more thing. Liam Firkin asked about how I make my selections. Well, I try to be sure that the horse is going to run in a race and that it's value and that I feel it can win. But there is a selection process video that was put up around 2 years, maybe 2.5 years ago. And if you look it out, you will find it in my YouTube channel, the Anti-Post betting selections. And if I can ask you a couple of questions, because maybe the horses I've talked about tonight aren't really ones that are contentious or horses that you want to talk about. So, do you think there's any threat to Willie Mullins being the top trainer at the Cheltenham Festival this year? Do you think Gordon Elliott, Henry de Bromhead could be the top trainer this season? And do you think the English or the British runners are going to pose a bigger threat to the Irish runners this season, perhaps in the handicaps where they look like they're being dropped a few more pounds than they normally were? Do you think we can make it better than 23.5? I'll leave you with those questions. I'll say many thanks to so many people watching. I only made the videos for my fellow caddies, and my view really, to me, isn't what I would be saying is as good as like all the other videos that are out there. But I'm happy that people are watching. I like that people want my view, but I just put up what I think, and I try and put up good bets. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a great week until next week, and I'll be back to you then with another episode. So thanks for watching. Bye for now.